you have not just a full stack of clients, you've got a wait list. Imagine you've got the next 3 months, 6 months fully stacked out. You can't take any more work on. Even if they paid you double or triple, you can't take any more work on. And you've got a wait list of, say, 5, 10 other clients. I want you to picture that for a moment, because I'm going to give you the biggest messaging tip or the biggest marketing sales tip of your life right now. So you've got this big, huge big stacked out, and you've got the biggest wait list you've ever had. You're not worried about money. You're not worried about business. There's a big thing here that I'm going to share with you. You don't stop marketing. You do not stop marketing. Why? Because as much as we like to say, marketing can kind of bring in revenue, sales can bring in revenue, and it can, there is a gap. There's a gap between you taking an action and actually seeing the conversion. So if you start to build your brand today and you judge it by tomorrow, did I get leads? That's silly. You know that's silly. But for a lot of marketing, a lot of strategy to really feel not any benefit, but the full benefit of it, it can take longer than 3 months. So if you're stacked out right now, number one, keep marketing, keep promoting, keep selling, creating opportunity, because there is a lag between the day you start doing something and the day it actually delivers a return. And depending on what that is, but often, especially if you're selling something very high value, it can be 90 days. You know, the sales cycle, getting them trust to a point where they'll open to a call, all of that stuff, it can be 90 days. And with a corporate, it can be 6 months to a year. So even if you're fully booked, you should always have, even if it's a minimal level of activity, making sure that you're creating and getting leads, building trust, getting all of that infrastructure continually working. Because also the other thing is, if you stop doing something, like you forget what you were doing and it's hard to get back into the habit. So it's good to do it anyway. But coming back to that being stacked out with clients so you can't take on any more, I want to frame something differently. Some of you are not in that position right now watching me this morning. Some of you are not in the position where you're stacked out with clients. Some of you are in the position where actually you've probably got a gap. And the gap's, you know, maybe a month away, 2 months away, or maybe you're kind of bridging that gap right now where it's not where you want it to be. I want you to put yourself in the shoes of the person who's stacked out, the person who's fully booked, and think about if they are fully booked, so the money isn't the problem, and you know they don't have to worry about return on investment instantly. How would you do your marketing differently? Well, what are you going to do? Number one, you're going to get really picky about who you want to work with. When you've got a load of clients and you don't need it anymore, you get really picky who you want to work with. Number two, you get really picky about the work you want to do. And number three, you get really clear about how much you want to work for. So you get really clear as you get more successful about who you want to work with and who you don't. And interestingly, the people who are successful are generally very picky about those three things. And so if you're sat here watching me, listening to me, and you're going, Dean, I'm in a position where actually, you know, I've got a gap here. I'm going through a rough patch. I'm going to give you some advice that will fry your brain. It will feel wrong. It will feel like you shouldn't do this, but it's exactly what you should do. What you need to do is get really picky about who you want to work with. really picky about what you want to do for them, and get really picky about your price, how much you charge for that. Because as you start to have gaps, as you need money more, you actually become more flexible. And as you need money less, you become more fussy. But to market yourself successfully without big bucks and big effort, you just get really picky. You go, yeah. And I literally, Cameron Harris, known Cameron for years. I posted about maybe an hour or so ago, something like that, maybe half an hour ago. Cameron Harris, I've known him for years, and he put a comment on my post this morning. And he said, as soon as I realized who my actual customer was and realized I only needed 10 of them a year, it completely changed my whole approach to my marketing. Whole approach. And that's the truth of the situation. Most people who are struggling with this client acquisition thing are struggling because they're being too flexible. And that's allowing them to say, well, I don't want to close the door to this and I don't want to close the door to that. Why don't you want to close the door? It's because you need money. The need for money is basically saying leave the doors open, when actually you need to close a few doors and get really strict on what you're going to do. I'll give you an example, slightly different example, but I was talking to a salesperson yesterday here in Cambridge, and they've got, well, as a business owner, they've got 5 different services. And the hard bit for them is, what do I do on LinkedIn when I've got 5 different services? How do I market them successfully and give them all fair attention, given that they've all, some of them are competing for the same persona, some of them are competing for different personas. How do I do a good job of that? And we went back and forth, but the simple answer is you can't. You can't. You can't make an offer that's the perfect fit for that person and then use that same thing and try and make it a perfect fit for somebody else. People fall into categories. So I'm a business owner, but many of you watching me will be a business owner, but I'm in a completely different position to you, and you're in a completely different position to somebody else. So what we have to do is target people who are in similar positions, not a bucket with a job title. So for an example, I'm a business owner. I employ about 30 people or so. I have different priorities than a solopreneur. An offer to me that's positioned for a solopreneur, even if it's talking about the problem I've got, if it's framed for a solopreneur, I will assume that's not for me. So you've lost me as a customer. If you try to then, well, let's put some language in there so that Dean might think it's relevant to him too, you could alienate the solopreneur. So maybe the reason people get stacked out with a wait list is because they've got really picky. Not, as you might think, well, as soon as I get some clients, I'll get more picky. It doesn't work that way. I wish it did. It works the other way. I'm going to get really picky and then I'll get some more clients. So I wanted to share that because this is a revolving theme that comes at me. You know, I speak at an event almost every week, and I see that same kind of tension come up. Yeah, but I've got a few different things I can sell and a few different target audiences. And it's like, you're going to struggle because you're one person with one channel or LinkedIn. There's nothing to stop you using different channels for different things. But on LinkedIn, you can only be one person. On YouTube, you can only be one person. I'll give you an example from my other socials. I think I mentioned this the other day. one of my socials, it's actually my biggest social, weirdly, which isn't LinkedIn. So my biggest social, let me just pull it up so you can see it. I'm going to try and show it on screen here. As hopefully I can get this up. So I don't know whether you can see that, but that's my socials from Facebook. In the last 30 days, I've had 2.8 million views on my Facebook, right? It's bigger than LinkedIn. I talk about completely different things, completely different audience, and I talk about one thing over there. LinkedIn, I've kind of hybrided a little bit, and that shows sometimes because I talk about different things, and I confuse audience sometimes because I'm trying to speak to marketing leaders and business owners at the same time. But on Facebook, I'm talking to one person. On my other Facebook, I have an Instagram. I have a couple of Instagrams. You can't have multiple LinkedIns, but you can have multiple Facebooks, multiple Instagrams. But on one of my Instagrams, I talk about one thing and it outperforms my LinkedIn. So once you start to get really picky about who you're talking to, what you're going to sell, it gets so much easier. But that fear of closing a door and losing something is so powerful that it makes you keep the door open. And that reason that door's open is the reason things aren't working. You have to literally go, it's that door and that door only, get results there. And then, and I say this in my classes and workshops, once you've got that flow, that it's working, you can afford to experiment with broadening a little bit. But what often people do is go broad thinking that's going to give me the maximum opportunity to get revenue. It doesn't in reality. It confuses people. Then I'll narrow down. It's the wrong way around. You narrow down and scale out. You don't scale down. You scale out of a niche, basically. So many of you struggle with that. I struggled with it too. And I struggled with it personally because it felt like I was making myself less. When you're selling your expertise or what you do or who you are a little bit, it feels uncomfortable. It doesn't feel good to go, I'm just going to be this bit. I'm just going to be this bit. Because you go, well, but I can do all of this stuff. It's a bit like, an actor getting cast in action movies, but they actually like to do theatre. But everybody wants to hire them for action. And you look at that and you go, yeah, but they make mega bucks. Yeah, because they've developed that market. So it is a challenge. But actually, if you think like somebody who's stacked out, you'd get really, really picky. And the route to getting stacked out is actually to get really, really picky. We think when I get there, I'll do that. It's the other way around. To get there, you have to do that. You have to whittle down and get picky who you work with, get picky about what you do and what you sell, and get picky about your price. And then go, that's who I'm going for. And I saw something I was reading, I can't remember what it was. And it was about, there's ways to sell things. You can sell a $200 thing to 10,000 people, or you can sell a $20,000 thing, to like 10 people. Yeah. Which would you rather do? And so when you get really picky about what you're selling, I can assure you it's much easier to find 10 clients to feed you for the whole year than 1,000 clients to pay you $200. Might be easier to sell a $200 thing, but you need to sell way more of them. And trying to sell way more of them is actually a bigger challenge because you need huge scale. It's actually easier to go, I'm going to sell $10,000, $20,000 things in the next year, or whatever the number is. But you have to get really picky. You have to get really picky. And that's scary. But that's how most successful people are. That's why you get paid $20,000 to work with one person. So I thought I'd share that. I know it's kind of overlapping with my post I did today, but if you start to think like I'm fully booked and I'm fully booked for the next 3 months, but I need to think about the quarter after, who would I want to work with if I could choose, because money wasn't the problem? And what would you want to do if money wasn't the problem? And that's where you want to go. And then shoot for the market. Obviously test it, make sure that the market's actually there for it. Make sure there's enough people in your market there for it. Make sure that the value is there, but actually it's way easier. I met somebody the other day. I'll leave with this one. They're on LinkedIn. They've got 500 followers, and their plan is to basically launch a course, and they only need to sell only need to sell 100 $97 things to replace their coaching income. I'm like, only 100. Oh, only 100 every month. So I said, why are you doing this? They said, well, I've struggled to get any coaching clients from LinkedIn. Hang on. Whoa. Okay. So you think because you can't sell a $6,000 thing, you'll have more success selling $197 things. And I looked at the person's content, their connections, and all that kind of stuff. And actually, their content wasn't doing the job. And it's like, actually, you've just traded a harder job. You've just traded yourself into a harder job. It's harder to sell $197 things than one $6,000 thing. What we need to do is fix the actual problem. The problem isn't actually people don't want to pay $6,000. People don't want to pay $6,000 for that. And you haven't got to process the infrastructure. I talked about that, I think, on Tuesday. The infrastructure to basically bring people on the journey to see that as valuable. So, if you've got a $10,000 thing or a $6,000 thing and it's not selling, it may not be like what you're doing, the thing. It may be the way you're presenting it, how you're showing the value of it, how you're positioning it. You can have exactly the same service, and you've probably seen this. 2 people selling exactly the same thing, almost, right? Except one of them's not as good. There's people in your market that's selling something that's not as good as yours, your thing, but they're selling more of it. So it's not about how good the thing is that makes it sell. I had this conversation with somebody last night, sat in the bar here. Kevin McDonald, he's on here. I'm going to post about our little conversation. But you can have a scenario where somebody's selling something shitter than you, shit that's bad, that's not as good as your stuff, and they're selling it better. Is that about the quality of the product? Is that about, no, it's about how it's been positioned. It's about how they're doing it, not what it is. It's how they're doing it. Anyway, I'm going to sign off today. Have a great day. It's really interesting in England. We've got some major elections. It'll be interesting to see what happens with that, but we won't know till tomorrow. I'm live tomorrow, 2 p.m. I think it is, 2 p.m. I'm going to be showing you how to get 2 to 3 clients a month from LinkedIn, show you what needs to happen to make that happen. So if you resonate with what I'm sharing, come and join me. You'll find the link on my LinkedIn profile. Go to my LinkedIn, go to my activity section under events. You'll see how to get 2 to 3 clients a month from LinkedIn. Sign up there and I'll see you there tomorrow.